We are tWoTcast, episode 265. I almost said 56. And it's clearly in front of me.
All right, everyone shut the f*** up.
We are
Wheel of Time. Reread a podcast. Explicit and R freaking rated. Jono's the wild card, always talking shit. Joe's the straight man. He's a total dick. Tom calls in if he's not too busy. We are tWoTcast!
You're listening to tWoTcast, the Wheel of Time reread podcast. Now covering Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, Book 2, The Great Hunt. With me as always is Jono.
Jono!
And I'm Joe, and Tom is frequently here too.
Study your math.
All right, well,
your staff.
I'm going to go ahead and let our guest in here because they just jumped on and it's already been like a minute. So, I want to let them into the room. So hold on a second.
It's perfect timing.
It is
you can
perfect
introduce
timing.
them right after we were introduced.
That is correct. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you, sir?
I am... I think I've had 8 shots of whiskey, potentially more.
Fantastic.
So I'm on my way.
You're doing a good
sweet
job
home
already. Good work. And tell us a little. So this is N from Cool Story Podcast, just for our listeners. And tell us a little bit about yourself and your podcast, and for those of our listeners who don't know.
Yeah. So the Cool Story Podcast is me and my friend Matt. And I am a really, really old, longtime fan of Wheel of Time, have read it dozens of times. And Matt is a first timer. And so we're kind of doing chapter recaps where he is sort of trying to figure out what's happening. And I'm trying not to spoil everything. And in between, we are making endless queer references and 90s pop culture references. And I talk way too much about Charmed.
All right. So I like the random Charmed.
Good sell.
Yeah. Somehow it makes it into every episode as though it's the only thing that I watch, but I promise it's not.
I understand. It happens.
That was a really good
you all Mac references on here on it. No, I have not. But the only thing according to you guys, the only thing I've ever watched anything from the fucking 90s, nothing afterwards. So I get it.
True, yeah.
I mean, Charmed is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer if you took all of the good writing out of it and made it cheesy and just sort of like a warm, it's like comfort food, but in TV form.
I watched at least one season of Charmed.
Yeah, it's not the worst.
What's the caloric intake?
I mean, relative to a box of macaroni and cheese, probably like a solid 4 scoops of cheese.
Okay, that's not bad.
And there's a lot of cheese in Charmed.
I ate a lot of macaroni and cheese, and I understand that reference very thoroughly.
What's funny is every night around 9 o'clock, I try to eat macaroni and cheese, but I can't because burglars are about to come to my house.
It would be weird if you didn't understand a macaroni and cheese reference because you didn't eat a lot of it. You were just like, I don't get it.
Yeah,
that would be
disgusting. Why would you do that?
Sad. What's the point in living if you're not eating a lot of macaroni and cheese?
I was just going to say that exactly.
Well, there's one point. Right. Depression.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
So, Ian, what type of whiskey?
I'm a bourbon person. I tend to prefer Bullet or Maker's Mark. Although I gave up drinking a few months ago, so this is actually the first time I've had more than a couple of shots a while.
Yeah, congrats. That's a good time for this podcast.
Yeah, if you gave it up, there's a good chance you'll die, I think.
Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, I die doing what I love, which is the Wheel of Time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't believe you're
you will be reborn a hero and have to live in Tellerand for a bit after dying of alcohol. But, it's okay.
That's fine. I'm both gay and Irish, so I can hold my whiskey pretty well.
Clearly.
Fantastic.
So, real quick, before we start this episode, Tom says a bunch of things that are kind of like quasi-offensive. What is, when should we rein him in?
That's me, I guess, huh?
Yeah, he's speaking for himself. And he's talking about himself. Jono says that, not
That's correct, yeah. Because you had joked about, you like queer references, and I was about to say, he said clearly, I was like, queerly. I was like, well, you know what? That may not be funny at all. So
I think that's funny. I'm good with that.
Fantastic news.
I'm very hard to offend. So give me your worst.
In fairness, I'm very hard, and that's offensive sometimes to people. So you and I see an eye to crotch.
Perfect. I appreciate a man who's very hard. So here we go.
I will say this real quick.
All right, well, we're starting off very well.
I do have some blood pressure issues, so very hard is not exactly hard for other people, but it's all right.
You know, as long as we're not pushing rope, I think we're good to go.
I should probably hang up.
No, I think I can make it work.
Man, I like to hear.
I'm not a quitter, so
that was a good end to that.
Yeah.
or not. Maybe it's still going. I don't know what's happening.
It's probably not. I'm done. All right.
So the reason you're not joining us with Matt also is because he hasn't read the series all the way through.
That's right.
Which is unfortunate because we wanted both you guys to come on, and then you're like, "Well, Matt hasn't read anything," and I was like, "That's probably bad."
And let me tell you, I've had like a knockdown, drag out fight with Matt. Not really. I mean, one time I accidentally spoiled something for him, and it was apocalyptic. He is very anti-spoiler. So when you were like, we could spoil something, it was a good choice not to bring him.
Very bad about that.
Yeah.
I didn't predict our ability to not spoil something very well. You know, like I was like, we're gonna crush this out real fast. He's gonna be like, what? No!
Yeah, we try our best, but I don't think we'd succeed.
Oh my God.
We're just so used to talking about everything that we want to talk about at any given moment in time. It would be so hard for us to even be like, oh, that's a spoiler? This book came out 20 years ago.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing is somehow, just other than my brother, you three are maybe like the first people who I have had a verbal conversation with about Wheel of Time who are like kind of experts or really invested in the series. So I'm excited.
We are really invested. I don't know if we're experts.
I don't know. You know, despite having read it a dozen times, whenever I'm on Twitter or Reddit and I see people talking about things, I'm like, how do they have such a good memory of this? I didn't even remember that character existed.
Yeah,
it's obnoxious. That's correct.
Great.
Jono is our resident, like, brown Aja that remembers 90% of what he's read. And me and Tom are somewhere around the 40 to 50. So we're like, who? And he's like, this and this. And we're like,
a brown Aja that's in like the third grade is.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
I don't think that makes us experts.
What Aja would you say that Joe, you and Tom are?
Black.
I have no idea.
Did you say they're pretty?
I think I would do, I don't know, something boring like gray.
Do you become yellow when your kidneys stop working and you need dialysis?
Yeah. The jaundice is it's fine.
Then yellow.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Tom, you've never healed a living thing on this planet.
Your liver included, apparently.
And yet he's the only one out in nature at the moment.
That's true. A lot of people that jump on our podcast and like to say that Tom looks like he's from the Blair Witch Project, which is true. Because at some point he'll just start spinning around and the trees will be swirling behind him.
As long as we get a real good close-up of your nose as you're breathing really hard into the phone, that's all I'm asking for.
Tom has certain allergies.
Give it like an hour.
That start coming to the fore and it's right down his nose. It's going to be great.
That's awesome.
I do want to see him just accidentally inhale his whiskey too deeply and just blow it out his schnoz.
Me?
No, Tom. But you know
okay.
You also.
Okay, I'll do it too.
So, why did you and Matt start the podcast, or what was the impetus there?
I think I was bored, and I was looking for something creative to do, and I was kind of, despite being old and behind the times, I didn't really realize podcasts I didn't really realize there were other Wheel of Time podcasts. So I was like, Matt, I love this series. I love talking about it. He's new. So I thought, let's bring him in and he can do a new reader and I can do an experienced reader thing. And didn't really realize that there were other Wheel of Time podcasts. And so,
there's a lot.
Yeah. So started it thinking like, this will be like the Wheel of Time podcast. And then realized there were like several out there. And so it was like, okay, cool. We'll just do our own thing. And he and I also have a second podcast that's coming out in the next I don't know, a couple of months about true crime and sort of recapping old episodes of Law and Order and talking about the true crimes that inspired the show.
Well,
so
are we doing SVU? What are we doing?
What's that?
That's a fantastic spin on a true crime podcast.
Are we doing SVU?
No. We are going back to the original 1990 premiere episode of Law and Order. So
I love that.
There is some amazing, and also it's a period of time where I was sort of growing up, and so the early 90s was a period of it's so nostalgic for me to see all the like frosted eyeshadow and velvet chokers and butterfly clips in the hair. It's truly an amazing nostalgic experience.
But you might not be the only Wheel of Time podcast, but from what I've seen, you might be the only true crime podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's no other true crime podcasts at all.
Yeah.
None.
Zero others.
Yeah.
What true crime podcast got you into?
No,
what made that one happen?
You'd be the first.
Yeah, my favorite murder.
Yeah, there aren't any others.
Yeah, my favorite murder is the one that got me into true crime podcasting. Yeah. Love Karen and Georgia. Love their sort of just back and forth improv comedy kind of thing, which is what Matt and I aim for in ours. Is kind of we're telling the Wheel of Time, but we're also just making endless jokes about pop culture, 90s stuff, queer references. So it's as much Matt and I just going off on really inane tangents as it is talking about the Wheel of Time.
You know what you should do is actually a true crime Wheel of Time podcast where you kind of evaluate certain murders that happen.
That could just be bonus episodes.
Yeah,
I like
David
that.
Hanlon, right? David Hanlon murders dozens of people, right? Instead of like the East Area rapist, that kind of thing, he's the East and/or rapist.
I like that.
And you kind of go from there, and because we all know he's a fucking murderer and a rapist.
Okay.
And you've got your shit here. I think we've got real plans.
There's a podcast called Done Disappeared that is a parody of the sort of up and vanished true crime podcast. And now you've actually got me thinking about doing a parody of a true crime podcast about the murders in the Wheel of Time. I'm seeing season 1 as being all about Asmodean and who was there when he opened that closet. That would actually be really fun.
We're gonna have to
also, why was that person in the closet?
I mean, hey.
Also, it'd be almost like an Unsolved Mysteries episode where, I don't know if you've gone back.
Update. Asmodean Scalar revealed in a glossary entry.
Yeah, so if you watched Unsolved Mysteries, they had the recent redo on Netflix.
It's good.
And, it's fucking heavy shit. So my wife and I, we went to Hulu and started watching it, and episode 1, there's already updates. It's aired 89, there's updates, but it's such an awkward update. It kind of fits the idea of just throwing the fucking murder answer into an encyclopedia glossary, which is really what they technically did in Wheel of Time. Update. If you read the end of the book, you'll find out.
Yeah.
What you don't know is that Alan was Robert Stack. Alan Romanchuk, for those.
He doesn't know who Alan is.
Yeah, Alan Romanchuk, who's one of the Wheel of Time editors.
Jono, he didn't even know other Wheel of Time podcasts existed.
I know, I'm behind.
God damn it, Ann.
I do my best, and it's not very good, but...
We should patent the shit out of this idea, because it's going to get 8 listeners off the bat. 8.
I mean, honestly...
What's the point of patenting it? It's ends go. The ball's in his court. He's going to do it.
Hey,
we're not doing it.
The way Wheel of Time podcasts are popping up, if anybody else hears this, I feel like there might be somebody in the woods that heard this, and they're going to start the podcast tomorrow.
That's true. Any idea you have, it's over.
So edit this out.
Hurry the fuck up.
We got to leave that just for N.
I appreciate that.
Shall we start? More small talk's fine. We can talk about Tom's penis.
Spoiler warning. Matt's not here, so we can say whatever we want.
Honestly, the last time I recorded with Matt, we talked about Rand playing with Tom's flute to comfort himself. And I mean, solid. He does it again in these chapters. So hey.
Where are you guys at?
He blows it quietly. All right. It even says it. He blows it quietly. He doesn't want to wake anyone else up.
I mean, it's very much a summer camp experience. There's other people around in the room. You can't wake them up. So you have to do it quietly.
Yeah, it's wet hot American summer.
Matt and I just finished recording, I think through maybe chapter 21 or 22. We're basically when Celine disappears when they get to that first.
Oh, all right. So you're in Great Hunt.
Yeah, we're like right in the middle of it.
Oh, so you didn't really even have to reread for this. You were just like, oh, chapters 14 through 17, I got this.
I literally had notes on all of it. And so I was kind of trying to figure out how long you wanted me to talk about it, but I'll try to be semi-brief.
So this is our episode covering The Great Hunt, written by Robert Jordan, chapters 14 through 17, of which we're going to start each chapter off with N giving a little breakdown, theoretically drunkenly. He doesn't seem very drunk. But he's drank a lot, so
I've had a fair amount to drink, but I'm feeling surprisingly lucid. But you'll probably notice.
Maybe it'll take a turn halfway through.
you'll notice a little bit of like slurring or pausing as I'm trying to make my mouth make the right sounds.
Good. All right, chapter 14 is called Wolf Brother, and it's a parent's perspective. And I cut Jono off, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up now.
It's right. Two quick things. A, we try to avoid slurs. Secondly, it's okay. I love the fact that all of our the things that we're saying are like, we got this guy drunk for this podcast, this guy drunk for the podcast. It sounds a little like we're a fucked up podcast, really. And we just
like to get drunk and talk about the books, and we want others to participate in that, Jono.
It's possible for other people to be sober, not us, ourselves, of course. But it just seems almost like this is like a weird what's the right term when you try to make someone drink? I feel like I'm
a pusher.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a suicide. Yeah. Just push someone off. Yeah. We're very abrasive in our desire. If you're going to be on this podcast, you have to fucking drink.
Yeah. I think the instructions I received were be really drunk and show up.
I feel bad for someone who's actually I had a horrible time. This is my first time reading The Wheel of Time sober, but thanks a lot as an invitation. Anyway, you're up, Ian.
Oh, great. Okay. So chapter 14 is Wolf Brother. The sigil for this is a wolf, which tells us it's a parent chapter. And this is right after Rand and Huron and Loyal vanished in the middle of the night. And so everybody's waking up trying to figure out where they went. And basically, Perrin is starting to use his wolf GPS to try to figure out where everybody has gone. So he I think Wolf GPS is kind of the perfect analogy for this, right? He's triangulating, trying to figure out where these folks are. So he is talking to the wolves. They're trying to figure out whether he's Elyaaas. Is that how you pronounce his name, by the way?
I think we just say Elyaaas. Yeah, why not? But, Elyaaas works.
Okay, great.
I don't know what the actual pronunciation is, if that's the question.
I don't either. I try to make it accurate, but who knows?
It's actually Elyaaas. It's like a hell yes, but the H is silent.
Or like Elyaaas.
Yeah. I like that better, actually. Okay. Let's go with that.
So the wolves are wondering if he is Elyaaas, whatever. And or Elyaaas, and he sends them the scents of Rand and Loyal and Huron to see if the wolves had sensed them around, and basically they're like, no, we last saw you all walking into the camp, and then they vanished. So Perrin is trying to figure out what to do with this information. And he's talking to the wolves and tells them about Trollocs, and he sort of becomes overcome by the wolves' fury about Trollocs.
Yeah.
And what I like about this, dealing with Matt, my co-host, who's a first-time reader, is he is fully convinced that Perrin is turning into a werewolf. Like, he actually thinks Perrin will actually become a werewolf at some point, and I'm trying not to spoil that for him.
Is that incorrect?
Perfectly fine,
I mean, like, we meet that guy in The Dragon Reborn who eventually becomes wolfy, but I don't know that he sprouts hair or fangs or anything.
No, he just lives like a dog.
Holy shit. Can we talk about, real quickly, and I apologize for interrupting.
Please.
Clearly, it's like in Harry Potter, Dragon, which came first, obviously. In books, really find a werewolf character, just like J.K. Rowling laid out years before Robert Jordan ever came up with it. Is that not correct?
No, I mean, J.K. Rowling invented everything. She invented magic systems. She invented transphobia. She is on the cutting edge.
Transphobia being for people who are scared of people turning into werewolves?
Yeah,
these people were talking about the Bible the other day. I was like, rip off of Harry Potter. Been there, done that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. So
then I quickly left because who wants to talk about the Bible?
Not me. Certainly. I could not tell you a thing about it. But my Bible...
Well, it's a rip-off of Harry Potter. That's all I know for sure.
So Perrin's talking to the wolves and has to remind himself he's human so that he doesn't become overtaken by the fury of Trollocs. And Matt is asking if he's okay because he notices Perrin like grunting or scowling or something. And he tells Ingtar that he knows where Fane and the Trollocs are. And Ingtar is curious how he knows that. And Perrin, in a rare moment of any of these men being transparent about their feelings or what they're dealing with, actually tells him, I'm talking to wolves. Ingtar, 0% surprised by this, knows Elyaaas and is Elyaaas and is like, you know, hey, he was a warder. That's great. I know all about this wolf talk. Somehow Perrin manages to find the one human who has talked to the two people on this entire planet who know about wolf people, wolf
and
brothers.
Sniffers. Yeah.
And sniffers.
Yeah.
And he convinces him, this is great. We can market you as a sniffer. Nobody else will freak out. Just don't tell them that you're talking to wolves. And even Matt is like in on this and it's like, you're a sniffer? Are you as crazy as Rand? I'm the only sane one left from Emmons Field. And I would question that statement, given that he's currently being possessed by an ancient evil. But hey, they ride south and they come upon a pile of human bodies with heads stacked on top, which is Fane's sort of like, come and get us, motherfucker. We've got, you know, they're playing them, etc. And then they're sort of like dealing with that pile of bodies when Ingtar notices a rider approaching from them. And Matt thinks to himself that it must be Rand and says to himself, I knew he wouldn't run out on me, which is absolutely subtext that shows that Matt and Rand are in love with each other and they hooked up on the way to Camelin. It is clear as day from this subtext. Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello. It could not be more apparent.
Maybe Cumland, but it was Camelin.
But despite Matt's deep yearning for his lover, it is actually Perrin. Or no, it's not Perrin. It is Varen. Different letter, turns out.
The P and the V go together, though.
They're very similar.
Sometimes.
They go along pretty well together. And Varen rides up and says one of the most contested and discussed lines in all of Wheel of Time. Moraine sent me, Lord Ingtar. She thought you might need me. And then she starts doing her Varen like thing that she does, which is talking about, you know, birds and flowers and whatever. And is then like, wait a minute, where's Rand? And Ingtar is like, well, they disappeared, but we're on their trail with our new sniffer, Perrin. And so Varen is like, okay, I'll ride with you. We'll find him together. But in the meantime, Ingtar, just super cash, no big deal. Don't make a big thing of it. But please tell me every single thing Rand ever did or said.
Because I care about the horn.
I care about the horn.
And I'm not taking notes.
Exactly. I'm definitely not taking notes. I'm not obsessed with Rand in any way, but I just, you know, tell me every single thing. And then Matt, in kind of an interesting moment of awareness that is uncommon in the early books, I will say, of Rand. He's like, wait a minute, she's after Rand. She doesn't give a shit about the horn. She wants to know where Rand is. And Perrin is like, yeah, I agree. And then Perrin is like, hey, wherever you've gotten to, Rand. See, I was slurring a little bit there. Wherever you've gotten to, Rand, stay there because it's safer than here. So Perrin I love those moments where the characters are like, it's safer where you are, or you're so much better with girls, or whatever it is, where they're clearly so out of touch of whatever the other person is going through, because none of these men ever share their feelings.
It's safer wherever you are, whatever hellish burned landscape that may be.
You know, hey, like maybe there's giant monsters there, but whatever it is, Varen's here, so you're safer there. And so they ride on trying to catch up with Rand and Fane and the Trollocs and figure out where they are. And that was
incredibly in depth.
And no, but it was also like, you know, what's funny for you know, I hope for your sake you've never listened to us. It was both in depth, but at the same time, kind of like hitting the actual points. Like one of the things that Joe has a problem with is the fact that he lets me talk, and I just off into bullshit.
Sure.
We all have a problem with that.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's been happening for literally a fucking decade. So, good luck hearing that.
All right, so let's run through this chapter, I guess, and kind of hit some higher notes. Or rather, the notes that were unsaid in that amazingly in-depth chapter recap.
Yeah,
Sorry, was that too long?
No, not at all. It was fucking perfect. It was also emblematic of the fact that, it doesn't matter. It was a fucking great recap for it, and it hit a lot of things probably better than definitely me, but definitely better than we probably would on a recap.
Well, Jono, you queued yourself up there to go into insane depth over every detail of the chapter, so let's do this.
All right, let's go to it. So, I'll tell you this. On page 1, can you fucking imagine how insane this must be for Ingtar? Like page 1? Yeah, on page 1
of the chapter.
Of the chapter.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go back to page 1.
Yeah. I need to go back 13 chapters right now, and for a lot.
That would be on brand for you.
How fucking weird. What's he supposed to think? There's zero. There's no hoof prints. There's no footprints. There's nothing in this. At least 2 of the people that matter the most, his number 2 in command for whatever reason, and his sniffer disappear. And also the biggest fucking guy on earth. With zero track. What's he supposed to think? Just
gravity stopped and they floated off into the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, in his defense, Ingtar is a dark friend, and he's used to magical, spooky shit happening all the time. Maybe not all the time, but he's used to some spooky shit, and so he's probably
definitely got more knowledge of what might be happening.
Yeah.
So he's probably even more confused than anyone else because he knows that these guys, you follow them from a distance. But he's also trying to retrieve his soul. Almost.
Was that a Bette Midler reference?
That's
that
correct.
was.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of weird references.
I thought I was the only queer person on this podcast, but somebody else just referenced Bette Midler, so suddenly I'm questioning that.
It's funny. You know what my rebuttal would be? I'm the only one, Melissa Etheridge.
I appreciate that.
Very good.
Yeah.
I just love when they disappear and Matt says, maybe they ran away. It's the most normal idea in the world. And it just made me cry laughing. Maybe they committed
suicide. You, Tom. It's totally channeling. Because at the same time, as you know, this book came out in 1990 or 91. Home Alone came out in 89, I believe. And Robert Jordan was very influenced by the line that Marv says when he can't find Kevin McAllister looking down. He goes, he committed suicide.
And we have this weird love of Home Alone on this podcast.
Does he really think that Kevin committed suicide in Home Alone?
And honestly, I've probably seen the movie 10 times, and then we were watching it one time, and Jono just goes, wait for this part, watch what he says right here. And it's so subtle, and it's when he goes out the window to the, the treehouse, and Marv looks down and ground and goes, maybe he committed suicide. And I was just no dark line I've ever heard.
So dark.
So dark.
It's so fucked up.
It should not be a children's movie.
No.
Yeah. And we say it all the time. Anyway.
Yeah. So we can move on from that. In an actual serious kind of I believe this is parents' first time since the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. And
before that, was he really talking to them during the White Cloak thing, or was that just a moment of rage? Wasn't he kind of talking to them as they camped with Elyaaas? Moving up to that point,
I'm so glad to have had a permanent impact on your pronunciation.
Oh, that's never going away.
We get it wrong all the time anyway. We might as well get it more wrong.
Yeah,
let's go with more wrong.
More wrong's better. So if you remember, the first time he's with Elyaaas, I think there is he senses something, and as they continue walking and running and hiding towards the white, what eventually becomes the White Cloak encampment, that spot, he feels them, but he never really intentionally reaches out to him. After the fight, really, to find out how Elyaaas is doing.
I think you're right. I think this might be the first time.
It is. I think, unless
even if it's not. It's the first time for a lot of things. They name him Young Bull, which I thought was awesome. I mean, just in the idea of that's how they know him. The idea of are you Elyaaas? And then he's like, no, I'm another guy. And he's like, oh, you're the one who kills White Cloaks. I know that guy.
You're the muscle daddy. So we're going to name you Young Bull.
I like muscle as a name.
I love that not just humans, but wolves also think Perrin is just completely has no grace whatsoever.
It's just ironic because they talk about in the early books.
But you bumble your way through shit. Yeah.
But they talk about in the early books how careful he is about like stepping around things. Yeah. So yeah.
That is interesting. He's the opposite of a bull in the china shop, where they just call him a bull, but they know he can step through it just fine.
Well, first of all, bull in a Shan-Chan shop.
He just dances through it. Turns out it's all Quindalard. None of it would have broken.
Is he still young?
Oh, shit. No.
Is he still young bull when he turns 60?
That's an excellent question. How long are these wolves living? Is he really even young to them?
How long do wolves even live?
Not that long, I imagine.
The ones that Perrin talks to, not that long. He's constantly getting them murdered.
Maybe they have like an ancient memory from all the wolves in the wolf dream and stuff, so they don't consider themselves young in any way.
Well, wolves only live 6 to 8 years in the wild, so I think Perrin should be old bull.
Yeah,
old bull. I like that.
Well, how many years in the wild did Perrin live, though? Like, he's only on year 2 of the wild.
I guess that's fair, yeah.
Old bull in the mental image is just like a very old pair of saggy balls.
Yeah, he's young as a bull. Really, Elyaaas should be the oldest of all the wolves.
Well, he's Longtooth, right? Like long in the tooth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, see, everything's working out.
Yeah, this all makes sense to me.
I thought that was just because of the knife. Nope. I get it now.
I really like how Perrin mentions his ability to identify people by smell and what he's going through in more detail at this point. But one of the things he kind of says is, the first time I smelled Fane, I wanted to rip his cell door open and rip him apart because of his smell. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
I did not remember that.
I don't remember that either. So when I read that again, I was like, wait a second, Jesus. That's fucking extensive.
Perrin saw Fane at the end of the Eye of the World, right? Or did he not?
He did.
He
all right.
did, but not close.
But not since.
Yeah, not closely, I guess.
Actually, now that I say that, he kind of like heard the report of him being dragged into Faldara, but he didn't necessarily see.
Yeah, and then Moraine came into the room and said a bunch of shit, but I guess he didn't really.
Because they were in Agelmar's chambers. Yeah. So and that's kind of like star note I've got.
He was also kind of avoiding going down there, right? Like, wasn't like Egwene would go down there with a Neve, but like
So he had,
and then eventually Matt, but not Perrin. Like Perrin would never go down there, right?
Very
eventually, but
okay.
Sorry, Tom's getting hit by a train. We'll pick up with
a ghost train.
Yeah. So I think though, because I mean, what does he smell, right? Like he shouldn't smell anything physical. So I think this is also our first time that we actually get parents smelling emotions or intentions. Because there hasn't been.
I feel like it's more just him passing on the scent memory to the other wolves and then going, "Oh yeah, that guy's over there," and using the wolf GPS.
But he talks about what he smelled earlier. So what he smelled earlier had to have been not just Fane, unless Fane just smells like literally rancid shit, which is possible.
I think he does.
I don't think he's showered in 2 books, so I think he definitely does.
Well,
we've discussed this a lot of times.
For a shower for him at the end of book 1.
Aaron uses his tongue to clean his body.
to clean Fane's body or his own?
To his own body.
His own.
He didn't want to do with Fane's. This is disgusting, man. What's wrong with you? Why am I doing this? So I think this is our first time where, again, my opinion, I could be wrong, where he has emotion and or intent in someone. And that's why Fane to him is so, like fucked up and just disgusting.
Very possibly.
I mean, again,
it has to be. That has to be what it is. Other than just because it's not like he's also smelling the murders.
Yeah,
I think he smells the way he hates Trollocs and Fades, or the way the wolves do. I think he smells.
Shadar and Fane is worse
the Dark
than
one all rolled up into one.
Yeah, and that is why Matt's not on this podcast with us.
Exactly.
Unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I really wanted to have both of you guys on, but I was just like, yeah, we're gonna not be able to hold back. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Spoiler heavy, not spoiler.
Yeah,
no
averse.
Yeah. So on your note, and of him only telling Ingtar about the wolves, or rather him actually revealing his inner thoughts and feelings to another man.
For once.
Forever.
Which he will never do again. Never does again.
I mean, doesn't he?
Not even to his own wife.
Never, but like it's very rare.
I mean, he barely knows Ingtar. He's like, look, I can talk to wolves.
Ian is right. Like, one of the biggest gripes that we've all had for this series is the fact that, like, honestly, if you just fucking talk to each other, you'd find out so much more, and it would just all be so much easier. And Perrin does right here into, to a certain extent, the worst goddamn person you could, because he's a dark friend. Spoiler. But like, way to be a judging character. Guy who's clearly just been like riven by strife already, and like he's like, we should run, but we should run, we should. So he's clearly in a good mindset.
By the way, is that why Ingtar doesn't react? It's because he just knows from the Dark Friend social, or
no? Because I don't think that any of them know that he can talk to wolves, really.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it didn't surprise him because of what...
Because he had already seen the picture of him.
Yeah, because he knows Perrin's important, and he knows, like, he's a, so he's on the wanted poster, for God's sakes. Like, when he's like, by the way, I can talk to wolves, he's like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Well, you're friends of Elyaaas.
It's like, yeah, I actually saw a little clay man of you with yellow eyes, and I knew a guy with yellow eyes, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Either that or you don't have a liver, jaundice.
I guess my only other question, because again, and summed the chapter up so well, is Varen and Ingtar just chatting about dark friend shit, or because who knows how disguised they were.
Do you think Varen was at the Dark Friend social?
I believe that she was. I don't know if there's confirmation, but
Interesting.
I think that she was.
I always assumed it was just Leandrin.
I think people.
Well, Alvirian was there for sure too. I think. Alvirian or whatever, however you say her name.
Now that, never forget the fact that any of these people who was actually smart would take off their fucking ring.
Well, doesn't Bors in the beginning like point out a Shanarian lord and like how poorly that he's disguised himself? Maybe Varen does.
Exactly.
She's just like,
that's what I'm saying. So like maybe like a part of her is like, hey, by the way, I know what the fuck you're doing, and that's why I'm here for real. Like, because they very quietly talk, and she even like stares down Perrin and like makes him back off because he's like leading the as the scout of the group, so to speak. He was riding up front, and she kind of glares at Perrin, and he backs off.
I could see her recognizing him, but not him recognizing her.
Also, Robert Jordan, very convenient time to not mention Perrin's amazing ears.
Oh,
agreed.
Yeah. He's like, they were mumbling, and I couldn't hear it. I was like, you couldn't hear? That seems not true.
Maybe she channeled.
Well, and I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of indications of Perrin's increased hearing abilities up to this point, have we?
We did when I think he had just walked around the corner earlier on with what's her name?
Yeah, you're right about that. Earlier in the book, he heard them talking before he was there. His abilities are still growing at this point, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's very early, and Robert Jordan's very just giving it to us one at a time kind of thing. He's not really like,
I like that.
He can do all of these things. Yeah, it's really more like, here's one, and here's another one.
So what makes me laugh is that like he wants to join in the hunt so badly that he's worried that he's about to lose himself here. Like when he first kind of like is talking to the wolves, fucking gets the scent of the Trollocs and something else, which is Fane. Like this is where he kind of almost like, well, again, it's not his first time really doing it, because his first time talking to wolves, he killed 2 people. And now here he is worried that he almost joined in and ran away, like because he was just too excited about it, or excited may not be the right term, but too emotional about it.
Worked out.
His first 2 times talking to wolves are very fucking like almost too visceral, if you will. And it's kind of like I've got to fucking separate myself. Does that make sense, Em?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's definitely trying to figure out how to maintain a sense of self in the midst of talking to a bunch of animals, really, and trying to separate himself from animals.
Yeah. It's kind of, what's funny, it's always like vexed and perplexed me that almost it's like, just, God damn it, Perrin, like you're so fucking annoying. Like, I get Rand not embracing himself because, there's a few thousand years of prophecy about it. But Perrin, just fucking enjoy it. You've got some shit that other people don't. But in this case, now that I think about it, like, again, time 1, murdered 2 people, almost were executed yourself until things got really, really fucking lucky. And then time 2, you instantly almost charged off in the middle of a camp of people and ran to go be with wolves. It's not really a great first couple of, experiences.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like he's for sure losing control of himself and feeling anxious about that and trying to figure out how to maintain that sense of self while he's connected to this like consciousness that includes animals and not just human people.
Yeah.
Maybe
I really think this is... Go ahead.
Maybe when this first happens to you, like that's the super, super dangerous point. Like if you don't keep it in check, you turn into a wolf man like Gnome.
It is interesting. Is it the same kind of similarity in that, like, 70% of them lose their minds and 30% actually carry on? Kind of like first time.
I feel like we'd hear about more wolfmen.
Yeah, I don't really think there's that many, especially when the wolves basically confirm that in this chapter. You're like one of 2 guys.
One of 2 people, exactly.
And they're like nowhere near where he's talked to wolves before, so... Clearly, the word has spread that there's another guy that talks to wolves.
They say you're one of 2 people because there's like 1,000 others, except they don't consider them men; they consider them wolves as well.
Oh,
because they're all living in their dog pens.
That's true. And in the wolf dream later on, Gnome is a wolf.
Good enough.
Like in the end books, he's like hanging out with Gnome in the books in the wolf dream, and he's like, "You're familiar. I don't know why I know you." And he's like, "Because you knew me as a man." I'm not anymore. I'm dead, and I'm also a wolf.
I've got so many. Like the last question I really have though is, well, I guess I've got so many thoughts about the Moraine sent me line, but it really doesn't matter. Like as you hit it. It's that line that everyone kind of views as, is she Darkfriend? I mean, the answer is yes, but what is sent me kind of thing. But it was also like perfect fodder for so many fucking theories for the next, 12 books?
Yeah.
Given the fact that Inktar is a Darkfriend and we can all basically trust that Moraine's not, I'm surprised we, as a collective of readers, didn't realize like a million years ago that Baron was Black Aja.
Well, I mean,
it's kind of surprising.
But what is sent me?
I'm sure they did, yeah.
Well, okay, so imagining a world where Varen wasn't a dark friend, Moraine sent me could indicate the greater purpose of ensuring that the Dragon Reborn survives to the last battle is a driving mission behind why I came to join you.
Sure.
Could translate to Moraine sent me.
Yeah, but then also, so the key to this line, though, is that Moraine has a contradictory line in like book 4?
Yes.
Yeah, it's later on in book 2. But no,
it's in this book.
Saying, I didn't know. It's in this book, but what's in saying, though, is Moraine sent me doesn't have to be literally she told me to come to you, but by Moraine leaving the group of Aes Sedai, by Moraine...
Right, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of loopholes around it, and it could have been nothing.
This direction. Like, that's what I assume is going, and that, you sent me to... Like, it's almost like, again, that is, you made me watch you. Did I? Well, I guess I did. I'm magnetic, Thank you, Joe. Mm-hmm. You liked watching.
I didn't realize we got tipped off that early that Varen was Black Aja.
Well,
it's not until later when she gets contradicted that you get tipped off, to be fair. But I was just combining that with like the way they're sneakily talking to each other. You're just like, that's a little off.
All right.
Anyway, chapter 15.
Yeah, we spent 8 hours on this one, and I only need 6 hours on this.
That was relatively quick. We did all right on that one.
Okay, here's the good news. My notes on this one are much more sparse.
God damn it.
Good.
Oh, good. I mean, good.
So on chapter 15, Rand and company are still in Bizarro World and trying to figure out, A, how to get out of there, B, where they are. And Loyal sings to a tree for the first time. So this is the first time we see Ogier singing a tree song? Question mark? Nope.
Second.
Yeah, tree song.
Second? Oh, because he sings to the Green Man when he dies.
Yeah,
Thank you. You're right. Yeah. Okay. But he sings to a tree and turns it into a giant quarterstaff because this place is spooking him out and he's trying to keep himself safe. Huron is feeling the interweaving of a bunch of different paths of violence involved in this world. And the main sort of like Cliff's Notes of this chapter is they settle down for the night and Rand is playing Tom's flute to comfort himself, gay subtext, et cetera, et cetera. But there's sort of a moment where there's either a dream sequence or it's a sort of bending / blurring of reality where Baalzamon appears. And sort of the question is like, is this a dream? Is he in the real world, et cetera? And I actually don't have a good answer to that. So I'd be interested to hear what you all think. But Baalzamon in this dream sequence, quote unquote, calls him Luce Theron, says that he always finds these odd followers, noting Huron and Loyal, and quote unquote, the girl who wants to protect him, which Rand interprets to mean Moiraine. But to be fair, that could be like 6 different women at this point in the book series. And Ballsy also talks about how he has these Aes Sedai followers. And so he's telling Rand that the Black Aja exists, that I have Aes Sedai who follow the Dark One, and commands Rand to follow the Shadow. Rand, in keeping with the first book, is like, no, I defy you, I will not serve you, et cetera, et cetera. And Ballsy makes like kind of engulfs Rand in flames, makes his sword glow like white hot, and says that, he'll teach Rand, but Rand refuses. And so sets him on fire, makes his sword glow really brightly, etc. And when Rand wakes up, the heron mark is like branded into his palm from holding his sword. So this is one of the chapters that I'm not a dream chapter fan. I don't love the dream chapters as much. And this is a very dream chapter. And so that's sort of my brief synopsis of chapter 5 is Baalzamon comes to Rand and basically burns his hand with the heron mark.
All right. Well, I mean, that again, not much. You're much shorter and yet still thorough.
To me, what jumped out instantly is like similar to Rand or similar to Perrin. Rand is doing his best to avoid his own abilities. Like he talks about how he could jump into the oneness, or I'm sorry, you don't call it that yet, into the void, and just kind of wants to avoid it.
I don't know if he was like Perrin when they got here and Loyal was like, how did this happen? Rand would have been like, look, I can channel. It's not a big deal.
I trust you. I've known you for a while now.
I'm kind of like a sniffer, except I'm going to go insane and kill everybody.
Maybe if Rand had shown up there with just one shiny earring that he barely knew, he would have told him the truth. Wait, he did. Not like Perrin at all.
Did you say one shining earring?
That's what I heard. Earring.
Shanarian.
Yes, one pirate.
I was like, one shining earring. What does that mean? I don't understand.
That's what I said. It makes complete sense. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Big Vanilla Ice fan,
He's really into big jewelry. He's into statement jewelry, a big chunky turquoise necklace,
Yeah, he's got the lacy shirts now with all the embroidery.
That's right.
He's a fancy man.
This is all Moiraine left me. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's what she left me at all.
In this alternate universe, Rand was Captain Jack Sparrow.
And one of the things that we do on this podcast is I listen to our old podcast where we've already done this before. Basically, one of the things that made me laugh just from Tom's comment and what you were just saying is Tom said Rand's dreams are getting tiresome, and that's all he said. And I was like, sums it up pretty well. 10 years later, even still.
Moving on, we only have 7 more chapters to go.
What do you guys have to say about Balgazamazagaman?
Before we
pulling Rand into World Dreams. Oh
no! Oh god damn it! All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
What
Jono.
detail?
All right. So first off, I do love that we see that Loyal is like clearly just muttering to himself, trying to puzzle everything out, because even though he'd never read the book that Lanfear, or whoever she is, maybe Lanfear,
Celine, spoilers,
Miss Dion actually has. It's clear that he's like, well, this doesn't make sense, and this is kind of fucked up. And you mentioned the Sungwood thing, and to me, I think this is the weirdest missed opportunity that makes no sense. Like why he created it and it never goes anywhere.
Yeah, he just throws it out. He just throws it away like 2 chapters from now.
I agree.
That's a good thing I had this stick. I'm done with it.
Other than just like this world wants a weapon.
Yeah, I guess
like, there's not.
It's a magical bow staff from another dimension.
Yeah,
another dimension. Another dimension.
Oh, Beastie Boys reference. Okay.
yeah. Also from the 90s.
What? 90s. Oh, I was like, what are you reaching for?
Yeah, that would have been worth holding on to.
Yeah.
I do also love, and I guess we could talk about it when he throws it away, or we just talk about it now because who cares? But
when does he throw it away?
In like 2 chapters when they're going towards the portal stone. It's like difficult terrain and he's off his horse and he's pulling his horse and he just throws it to the side and starts using his hand to like get up the hill fast or something. And
that's correct.
Yeah. What is the point of that?
Yeah. I need to have 2 hands to jerk this horse around. Like, all right, good enough. Good.
Some of us need 2 hands to jerk the horse around, Jonathan.
You're not doing it right.
Have you seen a horse dick?
I have. I've seen Freddie got fingered.
Have you seen that horrifying video of a man getting fucked by a horse?
Which one?
Aren't there multiple? But also
it's called Mr. Hands.
Yeah.
Mr.
Which
Hands.
volume?
Okay. Anyway, Mr. Hands, he dies.
I suspect that
God.
I mean, I think I'd heard of that, but purposely not watched that.
Don't watch it. Somebody showed it to me once at a bar. It is not worth seeing, and the man dies in the hospital.
Oh God, it's horrible.
Okay.
That's also amazing.
Yeah. This is quality.
Yeah, we gotta end the podcast because we all have a show to watch.
The horse.
The horse what?
Finish.
Jesus.
According to my recollection, the horse enters the man. The man sort of like leaps forward in pain and acknowledgement that his intestines had been punctured, and that's kind of the end of the video. From what I recall.
So the man was
he died from sepsis.
He literally died from being fucked by a horse.
That's fucking horrible.
Superman had.
I mean, way to go.
I don't know what he was.
It's unique.
Really?
Is that not correct, Joe? Isn't that how Superman died?
Yeah, he died from fucking a horse.
That is how he died, but not how he didn't literally.
He was bucked by a horse.
Christopher Reeves.
He was bucked by a horse.
Oh, the real Superman. Yeah.
The actor?
I mean, he died. He got fucked by.
Are you telling me that the Superman comics doesn't have like a 3-episode arc of Superman getting fucked by a horse and dying?
There was a super-powered Superman horse at one point.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it belonged to Supergirl. What was that horse's name?
Supergirl's cat.
No, the cat was Supergirl's Tom. God, come on, man.
Streaky.
Streaky.
I don't remember the horse's name.
Streaky.
That's the horse's
name.
Yeah.
I don't remember the horse's name either, but it was a white horse and it had a Superman cape on it and it had powers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
And that power was fucking Superman
and
to
that
death.
power was piercing Superman's intestines with a super-powered dick.
All right, talk about the book. I'm going to look this up.
All right.
So I do love Huron's just delight with the "as well we don't mean to stay here" like side comment from Rand, like whereupon Huron can't stop laughing, like it's good and we don't mean to stay here, right? We don't need to stay here. And he just like giggles about it for the next 2 hours, and like Rand's just like, what a fucking joke. Followed by, it'd be much better if he just laughed. This is a depressing fucking place. As well, we don't need to stay.
I wrote the trail's getting more faint and Huron's remembering it. Not that he realizes that yet, but he's freaked out by it because he kind of has an inkling of that scenario.
Oh, yeah.
And
totally forgot.
Rand also has a note before, like, so they make camp and he takes the first watch, and then Rand had this note of like, he's thinking about Fane and his Trollocs, and he goes, it's weird. I think of them as Fane's Trollocs and Fane's Darkreds. Like, he doesn't think of it as like a group of Trollocs and Darkreds with Fane. He's started to think of, it's just an interesting note where like Rand's actually noting that he recognizes Fane as the villain in charge of these other creatures, as opposed to like just being with them.
Almost like
which I thought was kind of interesting.
Correct
Because he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's figuring it out.
Unintentionally.
By the way, it was Comet the super horse, and it was Supergirl's horse. All right, let's talk about this dream or the fog or whatever.
So
wait, was the monkey Superman's?
Now I got to look the monkey up. All right, talk about the fog.
I'll be honest. Like when I think about that poem, twice and twice.
I'm just gonna keep sending Tom out of the podcast to look up more Superman animals.
I forget the fact that it happens here in the other world in this fog. So it's almost unreal.
Sorry. The super monkey's name is Betho.
Oh yeah, I actually knew that.
All right. The fog is Beelzebub there? Is it a dream? What's happening?
Beelzebub, that's the devil put it. Oh yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I think it's a dream shard, like any of the other dreams that weren't really dreams before. I just think it's not hard. I mean, when you enter the dream world, I think it's kind of the same on all worlds, whether they're an if world or a real world or whatever, like what they're experiencing. And I mean, like, it's just reaching out towards his dreams, whether he's on this reality or the next. I don't really think it matters.
That speaks to quite a lot of power from
Ishmael, I think it's just that the dream world kind of permeates those realities, whether you're, on like Earth 1A or Earth 52 or whatever.
Maybe that's why it's so foggy.
No, I think that what In said briefly after playing that skin flute of Tom's to think about him.
I just sat down, nodded off, finger in a flute, skin flute.
Yeah, he again who hasn't done that? You jerk off, you pass out. Next thing you know, you're just kind of in a good mood.
Next thing you know, the devil is.
You're dreaming about the devil.
You're dreaming about old men, and then the devil's there to take you home. I mean, that is every gay man's story.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Well, solve that riddle.
Yeah, that was easy.
I knew what he was talking about.
Any other notes for this chapter, Jono? So you don't drag us back into it when we try to move on?
Let's see here. I do love that he's just still so fucking stupid. Like, well, I killed Balzamon right before doing it. It's like, no, dumb fuck, because here he comes. Balzamon mentions something called the first moment, which I don't think we've ever seen again. And I
don't remember that, or think we've seen it again either.
That to me, I remember reading it today, and I was like, what's the first moment? I can't think of anything. It's just a cool throwaway line. But anyway,
maybe it's just like the first time they met in like battle, so to speak, in terms of like the wheel, because he does mention that 5 seconds later.
Yeah,
he's like, "You're gonna die this time, and you're not gonna start the wheel over again, and it's all gonna end." And then 5 seconds later, he's like, "Also, join me. We can rule the galaxy together." And you're just like, "What? You're very conflicting with your demands."
He's really tipping his hand that if Rand joins him, that everything's going to end. He's like, but it's not. Just join me. It's going to be great. But also, everything will be over. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah. Do you want Oblivion with me?
Yes.
So what's funny about this is just kind of like how like sinister and dark. Like it is kind of fucked up. But at the same time, like he doesn't sell himself almost. Like it seems so fucking weird, the dark like cloud, the smoke, and all that shit. And then as soon as Rand like kind of gets any sort of like cognizance, just kind of seems to kind of billow away almost.
Maybe the Dark One's direction to him was just like, look, I still want him on our side. And he's like, fine, I'll try. But he's not super into it because Rand already killed him once. And he's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Maybe since Balgazamazamon is reaching out to him through the dream world on a separate world, he's not like as powerful in that world as Rand is, since he's like physically on that other plane of existence and just can kind of shove him out without much effort, as opposed to like if they were on the regular Earth.
On the regular plane, that was kind of my
reality.
Question. I was wondering if he was like stronger in this reality, and that's why he was sort of able to show up in this like foggy.
I don't know if it's Rand sort of way or Balazan.
That's Beelzemon's commitment to theatrics. Like we've seen that never stops.
He's got the smoke machine, the disco ball. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really break down the prologue from this book, like, it's insane.
He doesn't care how his face looks. He's just wearing that mask just so he can reveal it to Rand later. He doesn't actually care.
The effort he had to go through for that Dark Friend social, it's ridiculous.
Oh, that's true.
He had to put fake doors in front of doors that he channeled. Like, yeah.
All the setup to get all those Dark Friends
very
from different places into the one room that's not real. Like, it's just like there's that's a lot of work.
He's wearing at least
four. None of them are asleep. They're awake. They've got a tile with their gateways, put fake doors in front of them.
Yeah. It's like a Deadpool mask on now to look like half burned. Over that, he's been wearing another mask at the Dark Friend social. After this, he's been wearing like kind of like
it's the only thing.
Light. Yeah,
the only thing he's more committed to than the Dark One is showmanship.
Jono, what are your other thoughts before we move on to the next chapter, which we're all ready to do, but you, I'm sure.
Just again, as I mentioned, this is where he grabs the heron mark, and
yeah.
This is his first marking.
Do the heron, so something I've never really understood as a reader, I understand the significance of the dragon markings. The heron markings have always played a less significant role in Rand's sort of like marking or significance. What is, like, nobody ever really comments on them beyond these chapters where he is marked. So
I think it's the first step. In that specific part of the prophecies, it mentions like the order with which he is marked, and I think it just represents the first marking that represents he is actually the Dragon Reborn. And like, if you were even remotely questioning that as a reader at this point, like, you know for sure he's like moving on that path.
I think it was supposed to be a much bigger deal, and it like really was supposed to be fulfilling prophecy, and then all of a sudden, like, they were like, "Oh, this is going to be 14 books," and they just moved on.
Well, that's another thing. So at the time, like, Robert Jordan was theoretically writing a trilogy still, or maybe 5 books at this point. But like, because even into book 2, I think he was looking at more than 3, but it wasn't supposed to be much more. So maybe it was supposed to be more of a relevant, like, this is a thing, it happened, we're moving this in this direction. I don't know. That's an interesting thought, though, because they're not very significant.
Those brands are mentioned.
They happen.
Well, I think that's why he gets marked again by the dragons, because I think they realize, like, by the next book or maybe by 4, like, oh, having scarred hands by herons isn't very cool. I think it was supposed to be a Jesus thing too.
Yes.
So, like, let's give him dragon tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, like, as Tom mentioned, that looks kind of like it didn't do well enough to try it again in like a harder way. And there is definitely a very kind of Jesus Christy like. I think it was a female. Kind of like vibe with him, but I also think that, like, you know, what was it, Twice and Twice Hug, like once for like the past,
once to live and once to die.
Yeah, and what's ironic and like almost kind of throws it maybe, you know, he lived on one hand, died, lost his hand because he kind of died more than once, or had the potential to die, and still live. Almost like that life is over, you know. So that one death has been erased. I'm with you. That just doesn't really kind of. It seems almost a waste for it, especially considering, again, you lose the fucking.
They seem significant in the moment. I just think in the breadth of the series, they seem insignificant, and I think that's kind of what we're struggling with.
Right, because
like, books went to 14 for God's sakes. Like, even Robert Jordan didn't want to go past 12.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe Coolidge was also in the middle of doing that and also getting his tattoos, and that's when Robert Jordan was like, "This is fucking annoying."
All right, chapter 16.
Good enough.
Next chapter 16, is called Laserdisc of Pussy. No, sorry. It's called In the Mirror of Darkness.
You're the god out of... Oh,
it's Laserdisc of Pussy, In the Mirror of Darkness.
In the mirror, because it's an academic article, so it has to have that colon halfway through.
Yeah.
That does sound like a 90s horror
Tell
movie.
us about the...
All right, I'm muting my microphone now.
What do you want me to tell you about, Jono?
Oh, the contributor.
Joe, mute Jono.
Yes, the contributing authors. This is a chapter that is co-authored by me. This is the chapter, or the sigil for this is a dragon fang. This chapter is Rand in Bizarro World. And Huron is trying to sniff out the trail for these Trollocs and Fane that they're trying to find. And they're on their way. And this chapter is where Rand spots a tall column in the distance and wonders, what could it be? And Huron says, well, if we were in our own world, this would be Artur Hawkwing's Tower of Victory, whatever. But Loyal is kind of like, wait, we're too far ahead, et cetera, et cetera. They make it to the tower and realize it's covered in Trolloc script. It's not a hawk, but it's a raven. And they realize it's a monument to sort of like the victory of the Dark One. And Loyal is sort of like, okay, well, this makes sense, based on what we know about the portal stones. This is a world of possibilities. In this world, the Dark Friends, Dark One, maybe won some victories. And that's why we haven't really seen any people, because the Trollocs won a bunch of victories. And then they are staring at this statue when they hear the shriek of a woman in the distance, and the sort of script of a man saving a woman comes into play, and they run out into the distance to save this woman. And they spot this beautiful, beautiful woman dressed all in white, who in my mind is like slowly poking an animal in the snout with a stick. Like, it's not really trying to bite her, but she's just kind of like on a stone, poking it in the mouth.
I'm holding this back with a stick.
Exactly.
Is it believable?
It's 100% believable. She's definitely not channeling. There's definitely nothing suspicious going on. But this monster is basically if a monster frog fucked a bear and then had a third eye, it would be this monster, which we learn is called a Grolem. And Rand saves her from this monster, and then Loyal is basically like, hey, if there were perfection in human form, it would be this woman. And Rand is kind of entranced with her and starts to picture her naked because, again, he's 20 years old. That is 90% of his brain functionality is picturing women naked. And he offers to save this woman. We'll kind of escort you. You're safe with us. And this is Celine for anybody who hasn't read the books before. But if you have read the books before, we just spoiled a bunch of stuff because she's she's not to be trusted, and
she's Lanfear. It's okay.
Okay, great. She's Lanfear. She is Lanfear, and she is trying to woo Rand with a bunch of promises of glory and celebrity and all that kind of stuff. And Rand is just hell-bent on telling her that he just wants to herd sheep, and she is not super into that vision for them. She's not really into that journey. She wants him to be kind of a hero. He asks her if she's Aes Sedai. She is not cool with that. She gets super pissed off about it and tells him that she's not an Aes Sedai. But tells him that she came into this world by chance and she needs his help to get out of it. And Loyal tells Rand a little bit about these kind of parallel worlds of the portal stones. It just so happens, coincidentally, that Celine, this totally trustworthy and not at all suspicious woman, has read a book that is definitely not available in the current world about it's called like mirrors of something.
Of the Wheel.
Mirrors of the Wheel, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
So how this is the world of sort of possibilities, and there's so many possibilities of all the turning of the wheel. It's basically Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, but set in a fantasy world. And she's complimenting Rand on how like hot and smart and what a good leader he is. Then they ride on for a time. Eventually, they come upon another Grolem who starts to attack them. Rand and a pack of Grolem, like 5 of them, running toward them. And Celine is like, we must escape the world. We must go to the next portal stone. Save us, Rand. And he's like, no, I got this. Shoots some arrows, kills all the Grolem. And Lanfear's like, okay, cool. Or Celine is like, okay, cool. That's great. She starts to like be turned on by how stubborn Rand is. and is not into men who are super biddable. And then they start to hear more distant coughing, barking, which is more Grolem on their way to them. And Celine is kind of like, hey, it seems like a pack has our scent and we're in danger. Get us out of here. And that's kind of the end of chapter 16.
And that scent, if I'm correct, is her pussy. Is that right?
I mean, RJ doesn't specifically say that. It's her Laserdisc pussy, for sure. Yeah.
She describes it later as heady, which, you
almost made him spit out his whiskey.
I'm slightly less familiar than perhaps you three are, so.
You'd be surprised. I've never seen a vagina.
Congratulations.
Anna, once again, has done a very thorough job describing the chapter.
Yeah, what do we want to drill down?
Let's try to keep this on the high.
Other than Lanfear's pussy. I got it.
Yeah, besides drill down on that, you guys discuss me with you. Rand gives enough context here to kind of to Kieran, apparently. It's weird to me. This seems like a forced chapter, honestly, or a forced piece here, because Rand tells Huron his plans and why, and Huron looks askance at him like, well, Lord shouldn't tell me the reasons. Like
that's force.
That doesn't seem at all wrong for Rand to tell Huron, hey, we're going to circle wide because I want to see what's happening versus I want to circle wide. Like,
I mean, Huron's used to the leader just telling him what to do.
For Huron to just go like...
You mean it's weird for Huron at this point, or it's weird for Rand to describe it?
It's weird for Huron to be surprised by Rand.
Every step of the way through this entire journey, Huron is very quickly becoming like Rand's subservient.
Yeah, he very much needs Rand to be like
the boss,
the guy in charge, like everybody else that he's dealt with in his life like this. Like,
and he's clearly freaking out the more and more we go through this, and so I think it's completely normal that Huron's reacting.
But this Ingtar tells what the fuck he's going to do, and Ingtar
he doesn't.
Yes, he does. He says, what we're going to do is we're going to stop here.
He tells Uno, and then Uno tells the other guys, and then and so on and so on.
Well, what's
Huron just wants orders, not reasons.
Well, I mean,
all right, so. This is how the military works. If you're a lieutenant, you just go, we need to take that hill, and then the sergeants go, like, this is how we're going to take that hill. All these other idiots that don't know what they're doing.
Rand number 2, though?
Loyal. He's known him way longer.
Not even human.
And loyalness.
Not even human. Gross.
Yeah. Disgusting. Clearly cannot be anywhere in.
Anyway,
Loyal could definitely kill.
Very normal that Huron's feeling this way now.
His horse dick. Yeah. Sorry, what did I say?
I love that Joe talked over until the word horse dick came in.
Are we back to Mr. Hands? I turned away for 2 seconds and we're back to Mr. Hands.
Yeah, we're supposed to move on from
that. How Loyal could conceivably kill Rand or Huron.
So with his horse dick?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Great.
There's only one other way. With his horse dick that he sung would. Sang would. We'll go.
Yeah, there's a joke there, but let's. All right, what else do you have for this chapter?
I guess not a whole lot of it.
It was a lot of horse dicks. That was a lot of horse dick jokes, is what Jono.
And there was a large spire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they get the hawk here, which is, by the way, not a hawk, it's a raven. It's a fascinating. Like, we kind of get what's happening here once we kind of like by the end of this chapter, that this is a pale reflection of reality and therefore extraordinarily unlikely to ever happen, which explains why you can walk through it so fast, because apparently it's unlikely, therefore move on through, man.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting how Loyal is one of the only ones that's really not aware of what's going on, but just keeps pointing at like, hey, if we're at the spire, that should be like 4 or 5 days ahead of us. And then even when they get there, he's like, well, this is weird, because if we're here and those mountain ranges, those should be way further away. He keeps pointing it out.
Yeah.
I think Loyal 60% understands what's happening, and it's just making him really uncomfortable, and he doesn't want to use.
Like, maybe it's like the waves, and then Huron's like, no.
Don't say that word.
He understands it enough where he does not want to figure it out.
By the way, I wrote they heard the cream, but really I mistyped that. It's scream. They heard the cream.
I've heard the cream too.
What about the black streaks and the contrails? What do you guys think those are?
I don't really know. Still to this day.
I haven't.
We didn't have a good answer 10 years ago, and I still don't have an answer.
I had read things that they're literally contrails and therefore almost like laser precision, almost like to kill. To kill.
Like, is there still fighting happening here?
What if they
literally just in an empty area, or is it like totally dead planet?
What if it's an after
just a
effect
shitload
of the dark one? What if it's an after effect of the dark one literally touching the world?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
That's what I remember. I had that idea.
Not literally touching the world. What I think
reaching down with a big hand.
I don't know. Maybe it's
there would be nothing though if the dark one.
Did the trails correspond with the burn marks in the ground?
I think the contrails do. So I feel like it's almost like a laser shot through the atmosphere. Like that's. So
maybe that's like I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it would be, but an amazingly powerful weave that has still effects to this day. That's like tearing the ground up as it. Who the fuck knows? Like if you made an insane, crazy weave that would like rip a city apart, maybe 45 years later, it just like wisps and it's like burning the ground or something.
The only thing that flies in the face of that, which is the only thing that flies in the face of my idea that, it's contrails because why the fuck not? They see my contrails described, is the very obvious point that the Raven won.
Right.
So the Dark one at least won one giant battle. It doesn't mean it's all over, but that was kind of the battle
I feel like it's all over. I get the impression that this world is done. Like
done.
Maybe it's the only humans left alive on a plane just circling the planet forever, kind of like Snowpiercer.
I love that idea.
The movie or the show?
The movie.
Either one.
Or the book, or the comic book.
The burned patches in these books run east to west and are narrower at the ends than at the middle, which implies to me that the sun has to do with the sort of burning of this landscape. And it's most intense at sort of its zenith at the noon hours. And so to me, it implies that sort of the
ozone's dead.
What's that?
The ozone's dead, so it doesn't...
Exactly. Yes.
What about the fact that the burns are obviously extremely old, yet nothing's grown there?
Well, that just means it's a natural... Well, they don't know that it's extremely old. They just know that it doesn't smell like burnt or charred.
No, but Ian's right? I got some bad news.
Yeah.
Other than, it's going to be the same fucking thing every day. Every fucking day. So, every 365 days, it's going to happen this way, repeat. So it's going to burn the same swaths of spaces during whatever time it burns that hole.
So at some point in this reality, people fought on the moon with a one power and shattered it into 1,000 pieces, and then now it's thrown off the trajectory of the planet that's burning under the sun.
Yeah.
Could be.
But one of these theories that we've said is obviously right.
None of these are bad.
I know, but we can finally let everybody know that we figured out what they were.
All right, let's get to Celine fending off a frog bear that got fucked by a bear frog with an extra eye.
In the third eye.
Yeah,
he's talking about how beautiful Celine is, and I'm just and she's actually dumbed herself down a little bit.
Yes,
she has. So
that is an interesting note. By the way, show-wise, do you think she's being played by two actresses?
Oh, by the way, how the fuck
do you think it'll be one of those horrible 90s movies where they're it's a nerdy girl, but now she's a hot girl, and they'll
she takes her glasses off, and suddenly she's a 10.
Yes, yeah.
They should absolutely. Celine should wear glasses and frumpy clothes.
It's just just kidding. Now I'm even more.
Now
beautiful.
I'm a 10. Okay, here's
and
my
the
theory.
Other Forsaken give her a makeover. They dare Rand to date her.
Here's my theory on Celine. So far of what they've cast on the show, Dana is this like mysterious character on the show.
Yeah.
Who, there's Dina, which is Tom's lover, blah, blah, blah. Uh-huh. But there's Dana, who we do not know who she...
There is no Dana, only Zool.
There is no Dana. There is only Zool. And she is stunningly beautiful if you haven't seen pictures of her.
She is beautiful, yeah.
And I have a theory that they are going to make her play Elsie Grinwell, who is actually Lanfear. And they're just slowly laying the groundwork for Lanfear. And she's fucking stunning. And so I'm into it if she is Lanfear.
Yeah, I agree. I think she might be Elaine, but I don't.
Oh,
I have no reason.
You think Dana is Elaine?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, all right. She doesn't have red hair, but
she has very light brown hair, and if they wanted to, they could go curly golden brown or golden
by color.
Strawberry blonde if they wanted to. I mean,
spit out your drink there.
I would never waste whiskey by spitting it out.
Also, we definitely go by color here. Only, actually. Tom is incredibly racist.
That's why I agreed to be part of this podcast.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
I mean, I thought it was
subtly racist.
I don't think you need to say it.
Yeah, super racist.
Also, it's Rackist. I know there's a C.
Yeah. Racist ball, by the way, fucked up sport. Very
so 10 years ago, Tom said something along the lines of Lanfear's way too hot to listen to Nay Bliss in terms of why do you think she's here? We were talking about why do you think she's here? Do you think this is part of Ishmael's plan kind of thing? And we're like, no, she doesn't give a fuck. And Tom just goes, she's way too hot to listen to that asshole. And then I was like, how hot is Lanfear if they don't see how, as and pointed out many times, how ridiculously obvious this story is. I was like, she must be the hottest person on the planet if they're just like, yeah, I totally believe that you're here just coincidentally. Yeah,
honestly,
just blindly listening to her story. Yeah.
Like Loyal to get a fucking Ogier hard on and just stare at her like, you must be perfection by definition. Like, you got to,
even Loyal is like, holy shit.
Good luck.
I didn't even think I cared about humans, but goddamn.
I hope they get someone just like distinctly just awkward and ugly. Just you must be perfect.
They've never made that teen movie where the hot girl at the end of the movie is revealed to be 10 times hotter.
Oh shit! You know what this is? Bob Schneider from The Hot Chick.
Perfect casting.
That's interesting, but I'm gonna veto that.
Quite literally, the only way to get away with everything is just get Rob Schneider to do it.
So I wrote an interesting note here was that Rand willfully starts calling himself a lord because he doesn't want to reveal the lie to her. But he's very willing to lie to her, which is an interesting turn of events for him in his mind. He's just like, every time he allows Huron to think he's a lord, he's like upset about it. And then every time he allows Lanfear to think he's a lord, he's like, I hope she thinks I'm cool.
Honestly, he is literally playing to get some.
Yeah.
He's
like, I'm trying to impress this woman, and I'm aware of it.
He's like, don't you want glory? He's like, no. I wish if I was there, just say you want glory. Just agree with me. The love of God. You already pretended to be a lord, which is pretty messed up, honestly.
Another obvious,
it's like going to a bar and telling somebody you're an astronaut.
Not so hidden note is that when she heals his hand, it works as well as Nynaeve's.
God damn, yeah.
Salves.
Salves.
Well, I mean, as the reader, we all know.
Well, yeah.
Every time, like, I killed one Grom. Well, here comes two. I killed those two. Well, here comes three.
Yeah, but when it's so blatant, you're just going 27. Like, how do you not see that something's happening, Rand?
Do you think that she summoned the Grolem?
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure.
She must have.
Yes, she did.
I don't understand to this day how or why. Tom said,
well, I mean,
many, many years ago that...
They're shadow spawn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they are not. They are not shadow spawn, by the way. Let's talk about the exotic animals.
God damn it. Is that the big white book? Throw that in the
goddamn right.
I literally just purchased my first copy of the big white book 2 days ago. I've never had it before.
First off,
I can't believe this is happening.
It is
artwork's horrible.
Artwork's horrible. It came out between books 7 and 8. It's actually kind of amazing, and I used to always read it. Hence, how fucked up it is. Always read it between.
The information is accurate up until 7 or 8.
Very accurate, very useful. I have 2 copies, but one of the things that's important here is the fact that we find out that all the exotic animals of Shanchan were actually brought from a parallel universe. So probably exactly what you would see in a from what are they called? The portal stones.
Really?
And thankfully, yeah, that's correct. Thankfully, they don't consider the domain to be exotic animals. I found that very progressive that they don't consider channeling women to be exotic animals.
That's nice.
How forward thinking of them.
Yeah, they're really good.
So if they're not shadow spawn, though we solved the mystery earlier. They're attracted by her laser disc pussy.
Yeah, just to smell.
That's kind of what I was going to say in a less ridiculous way. But I mean, you know how Moraine sends their scents another way, and the Trollocs chase after it when they go to Arid Hole.
Yes.
Shatter Logop.
How useful!
I like calling it Arid Hole, and
from Arid Hole. Can we talk about that?
But, I mean, the point is, like, if Lanfear wants to attract, so say this is a Portal Stone world where the Shanchan used to come all the time to get more Grom or whatever, and be like, oh, let's get more of those fuckers over here. Like, because there's just a planet filled with Grom and nothing else. Like, it wouldn't be that hard for her to be like, oh, they're attracted to the scent of blood, like a shark or something, and just be like, here's the smell, idiots, and then they just come circling in. Like, she's attracting them somehow. She's doing it. How she's doing it, I don't know.
She's really doing it. She's doing it.
She's really doing it.
Yeah.
So talk about that. I think you raise a great point, Joe. Is like, if I'm Moraine and I just farted, I would use that spell to kind of just throw my scent that direction. Yeah, no, or weave. How she kind of like tried to combat.
It's a possibility. I'm just saying it's a possibility. It's a weave that we know at the point in this book that exists that she could have used to attract animals to the area.
Yeah, agreed.
Or to kind of stave off ill will. Like, no one wants the gassy fucking bitch on their team.
Well, clearly they're willing to eat themselves, because when Rand kills one later, it immediately jumps. One of the other ones immediately jumps on and starts ripping it apart. So, like, it could have just been nothing other than, like, hey, here's the smell of humans. And they were like, oh, fuck, yes. And started running in that way,
Could be sexual, too.
Of course, yeah. It's our Laserdisc pussy. Anyway, there's a few more things here, but Ann already told us about it in the recap. So really, what are we doing?
I think we're ready for the next chapter.
Yeah, the Grom come and they run. They decide to not run. Chapter 17 choices.
Chapter 17 choices. This is a chapter where Rand finally decides that he is not ready to attack or conquer a bunch of Grolem. And so he is like, okay, fine, we'll escape via the portal stone, whatever. And so they head for it. And Rand this whole time is thinking that Selene must be able to channel, because how else could she have gotten here via the portal stone? I feel like I'm really starting to slur my words because I've had more whiskey.
You're doing very well.
Crushing.
Thank you.
You're fine.
Thank you. Selene is like, hey, I really don't know how to use this. But by the way, even though I don't know how to use this, just coincidentally, by the by, this square symbol happens to perfectly symbolize our world. Just, coincidental. Definitely don't know much about it.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this
is definitely the way home.
Is definitely our world.
Yeah. So Rand channels at it, not really knowing what he's doing, but they reappear in their real world, quote unquote, with all of their horses. Selene is super impressed. Huron is really worried that they've lost the trail of all the Dark Friends and Padon Fane with the horn. Excuse me, I've had a lot of whiskey. Selene explains that they're actually ahead of the Dark Friends. They've gotten there in advance of them. And she continues to press Rand about finding the horn, keeping the horn, finding glory, blah, blah, blah. And Rand tells Huron to camp near where he lost the trail of the Dark Friends. They'll be able to rejoin Ingtar and the others when they catch up to them. And Huron is like, thank God I'm back in this world where my vision is not like a fucking magic eye poster. And then that's kind of the end of the chapter. Is they're back in the real world.
One of the biggest things that everybody complains about Rand is like the way that he takes care of women so much, and I love the fact that the only time he was willing to actually try to channel to get them out of there was to save a lady.
Yes.
Is she a lady though?
I mean, she's a woman, Jono.
You know what she is?
I don't know where.
She's one of the Forsaken, dude. Did you not read it?
Have you read the books before?
Seriously, Tom? Jesus Christ.
I did once, but it was like in the 90s.
By the way, because Joe wanted me to ask this, you know what we missed earlier? Right at the end of the last chapter is...
No.
She talks about, you always were such a, and then she's kind of like, just how difficult you are. You always were such an issue. And she's like, what do you mean? Today, you've always been so difficult. Not
today, yeah.
4,000 fucking years. But anyway, it's so obvious now, obviously in a reread, and I would hope it was obvious.
No, it was super suspect the first time.
Yeah, it was obvious the first time.
It wasn't obvious who she was, but it was obvious that she was suspect.
She was a problem.
Shit. Wait, there's someone we know who was reading a couple months ago. A friend of mine was reading, I guess, recently. And it was in book 2, and it was just kind of like, I feel like there's something about, Celine's not who she is. And all I wrote back was Dion, of course. And he's like, no, it's not fucking Celine Dion, dickhead. And
is
then
it Dion from Clueless?
No, Celine Dion.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Wait, who's Dion? Are you talking about the movie?
Dion is Cher's best friend in Clueless.
Maybe it is, since we're talking about how she was ugly, and then they're going to try to make her beautiful.
All this tracks.
I was thinking of Clue, with the movie with Michael McKean and fucking what's his name?
Clue. My favorite movie of all time.
One of the
such a good movie.
That movie is fantastic.
The best.
I'm sorry, you said Clueless, or I guess I said Clueless. No, all I could think of was Miss Scarlet. That's right.
Yeah, Miss Scarlet, Leslie Ann Warren.
Yeah.
By the way,
let's make the rest of the episode about Clue.
Yeah.
So they should cast Lanfear as someone on the same physical level as the maid.
No, powder my nose.
I wrote, we'll run away, but why don't we try to force you to channel in front of me?
Tom hasn't.
Before we get to that, still on the same topic, and you just covered this with your podcast partner, right? Does he know that Celine is Lanfear?
He doesn't know that Celine is Lanfear. Okay. He knows that Celine is not to be trusted, but he doesn't know who she is. He thinks that she is either Aes Sedai or she could be Lanfear, but he knows that she is not trustworthy.
Really? Why does he think that she's Lanfear? Or is that something he put together? Or
it's something he put together. From the Dark Prophecy. Yeah.
Gotcha.
On that note, does he think that maybe Michael McKean may or may not actually be gay? We're talking about Clue here.
Let me ask you another question that's actually back on what we were talking about.
There we go.
But also something you said at the very beginning of the podcast. What did you spoil for him that you guys got in a quote-unquote fight or argument over?
Oh, Michael McKean, right?
It was actually... So on our podcast Twitter account, I followed an account that spoiled RuPaul's Drag Race finale for him. So I ruined the finale of season 12 of RuPaul's Drag Race for him.
So not part of the books.
Nothing to do with Wheel of Time.
That's interesting that you guys need to be careful who you follow on Twitter.
Yes, we have to be very... I'm mainly the Twitter person. He's more Instagram, etc.
Okay.
So right. I spoil things all the time on Twitter.
Gotcha. Interesting. That's hilarious. That when you told the story, I just assumed it was about the books. It's about RuPaul's Drag.
And then when Joe asked the question, I was like, oh yeah, I can't wait to find out what it was.
Oh, yeah. Nothing at all related.
Nothing to do with Wheel of Time.
All right, Jess, I cut you off. You're asking a question.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I think it's hilarious how Lanfear's like trying to be coy and like not reveal that she's Lanfear, but at the same time, she's like, why don't you do something cool that's glorious and channel in front of me 17 or 18 times? No, I'm not trying to ask. Well, I don't even know what channeling is. Like just the way she's acting is so insane. Like he gives her like 1 inch and she tries to take a mile and she's like, why don't we just fight them? You can't fight them all with a bow unless you have some other way of killing all the Grom.
I mean, she's been waiting thousands of years
like just to
get back with her ex.
Yeah,
she's ready to do it.
Yeah, it's very obvious. Anyway, Rand dominates with a bow and kills a bunch of fucking girls. Let's move on.
Hot.
If he channels in front of her.
I'm trying to figure out. So one of the things that What is her
plan? What's her plan here, though? Like, if he channels in front of her, which he does, she still doesn't go like, "You channeled, and therefore you can tell me all your secrets, and I'm your confidant." Which I think would be the only goal.
She would yell, "I knew it" at the top of her lungs, and then they would start fucking.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, that's literally her plan.
What's her plan?
It's to make him wrapped in the oneness more. Like, that's not a euphemism for a condom. That's literally to kind of like make.
She wants him to channel to become stronger, so that they can team up and destroy the Dark One and take over the world together and have sex all the time.
So she's playing like the long game. It's not about just him channeling now and here and now, and her being like, "We could be friends and possibly lovers later because you channeled in front of me, and I know your secret." It's really more about like channel more now, so like you're super powerful 20 years from now.
Yeah. I just got out. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm so fucking wet. Like, I am the Tom O'Hara of women.
This is not conversation I'm used to.
And is currently covering his mouth and laughing. And you can just laugh at the microphone. I don't know how familiar you are with the Marvel universe, Ed, but there's
Fairly.
Do you know that?
Fairly.
I don't know. Oh, okay, fairly. All right. In the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, there's the Benicio del Toro character called the Collector. It's very random. Anyway, in Infinity War, Tom, remember when he died, or is it? I don't even know if it's in Game or Infinity War. Anyway,
are you just going to talk about the part where he's clapping?
And saying magnificent, because that's what Huron says, and it made when Huron goes magnificent, and I'm just like, that's all I can think of. If someone says magnificent, and that's it, I can only just picture Benicio del Toro in my mind, just yelling magnificent like a weirdo.
I think that's just for you and me, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Good. It's okay if it's just for you and me, Tom. Anyway, continue, Jono.
So I've got a note, and I cannot remember where it is, but it's from a, hold on. No, I forget where it is. God damn it, me. There's a line in here about, like, this is a place for queer fancies. Like, literally, that's the quote I've got a screen grab of. I'm trying to find where it is. I sent it to Joe and Tom, and I was just like, I can't tell if this is a huge no or a huge yes. And then your responses earlier about, like, what's funny or not, and I was like, this is going to be one of those gambles. And now I'm like, well, it's not even a fucking gamble because I can't fucking find it in my own notes.
It says it's so hard to make out something. This place has my guts all a whirl. This is a place for queer fancies.
And like,
and then Jono, and that was a screen grab. And then Jono said, "This is a place for queer fancies. Who wants to tackle this issue?"
And I was just like,
and I said,
"Me."
Ask him whatever you want to ask him. He's not going to be offended.
But now I can't find where it was.
I feel like
guts
all the whirl brings me back to the horse fucking again.
I mean, honestly, you're not wrong.
All right, what else about the chapter?
Not about the chapter, but here's tWoTcast from 10 years ago, Tom, and you'll love this one.
All right.
We were talking about Lanfear and her beauty, and then we just basically talked about, like, Tom said it's a good thing Perrin's not here. He can't even handle Tinker's dancing. Tom proceeded to quote, "Perrin, aren't you going to get off your horse?" "I can't. I'm stuck in my saddle."
He gets hard. It's nothing. No shame. No shame.
I said, if a good-looking girl walks by, Perrin does have a lot of problems with it.
Let's get to the most important matter, though. Who has the biggest penis, Rand, Matt, or Perrin?
Wait, we've discussed this, and I don't remember what our answers were.
Well, Perrin has a wolf dick.
Yeah, Perrin's got a wolf dick.
Yeah, so he's got the extra red lipstick part.
Yeah, it's not going to be big. Like, he will literally be a grower, but he will not be anything to look at.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've talked.
So Rand's the tallest.
Yeah, Rand's the tallest.
Okay, so Perrin has a aesthetically unpleasing penis. Rand has a long penis?
At least the longest, yeah.
Yeah, probably the longest. Matt is the shortest of the characters. Well, not the shortest of the characters.
I mean, Matt does carry himself as a character. There's no indications one way or the other. But he carries himself as a very confident person, and that sometimes is very relevant to how.
Matt also he also rarely sleeps with the same person twice on this. Like they're not interested in a small dick.
Aha!
So the three of you, presumably are heterosexual. If you had to sleep with Matt, Rand, or Perrin, who do you think would be the best in bed?
Interesting. And I only struggle with this because I have no idea what gay sex is like or what I would like about it.
Real quick.
So I don't. Go ahead, Jono.
Memories to draw on. Who's got the most memories, probably with men or women? Who's going to be the best choice? It's Matt.
That's a good point. I'm sure at some point Matt's lives have gone one way or the other, right?
Right. He doesn't only know battle, he also knows like metal.
You should know
if you're talking historically, I mean, like knights in shining armor used to take squires with them for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they knew what they were doing.
You should know that another reason of what they say is time to toss the axe.
Is that how that's translated? Did they get that wrong the entire time?
Yeah.
Well, so here's a side note to that question. How are they all in bed in general? Because I guess that would inform my answer.
I guess.
I mean, I imagine Perrin's very aggressive.
Rand seems very afraid to have sex in general.
Very animalistic.
Yes.
I would choose Rand.
Ironically, as a queer person, I would marry Perrin.
Okay.
I would fuck Matt and I would kill Rand because I think Matt is the most like adventurous in bed. Perrin, I think, is the most consistent, concerned about the enjoyment of his partner, and Rand is just garbage.
He's probably asleep. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think my answers would stray very far from what you just said.
Yeah, especially for Perrin.
If we're doing marry, fuck, kill, then that's a very different story.
When Fail gets so mad at Perrin for like trying to take care of her, and like I would just be like, no, do that. That's
take care of me. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm killing Rand. I'm fucking Matt, and I'm marrying Perrin.
What the original question was, which one would we most want to sleep with? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, Matt is the right answer because Matt is definitely the most
I think I was going to say Matt, but I was also just going to say Matt because he's one of my favorite characters, as these two idiots know. So I'm just going to go with Matt.
Yeah, so
it's a safe answer for me. It's really not very adventurous, but maybe the sex would be.
Well, Tom, your turn. All right, good. So
I'm still like considering who and why.
Let me help you out.
I can tell you this much. Not Perrin. That would be terrifying.
Why?
He's a werewolf.
And we like to make a lot of ridiculous jokes on this podcast, and you're clearly aware at this point about Perrin has physical transformations, even though that doesn't actually happen at any point.
Listen, if there's hair involved, it's not a deal breaker. It's really if Perrin is attentive and interested in the pleasure of his partner, which I think Perrin is, of the three.
Agreed. So
I think I'm still going to go with Matt, though.
One thing in favor.
Matt seems to be the obvious choice.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's just like if I'm going to do something adventurous, which that would be for me, very adventurous. The answer is Matt's the most adventurous lover in our perspective. So, why not?
Well, let me read to you page 225 of the hardback, and you tell me what you think this is about. And honestly, and if this changes your opinion, the symbol was a live coal in his hand. He drank in the light. The world flickered, made him sick, that light. It was to water a man dying of thirst. Flicker. He sucked at it. It made him want to vomit. He wanted it all. Triangle and circle seared him. He could feel it charring his hand. Flicker. He wanted it all. He screamed, howling with pain, howling with wanting. Flicker, flicker, flicker. Hands pulled at him. Anyway.
So maybe Rand, because he would be like, kind of.
I mean, Rand doesn't know how to figure a super flute, as we're all aware.
Yeah, it's clearly cum, right? I mean, that's what that is. Like he's sucking at it. He wants it all.
Rand is clearly the least experienced and confident lover of the three.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, but maybe just that, just the raw emotion of it all.
Yeah, but once he's ready to go, he's ready to go.
Yeah,
give me a lot to think about, then.
You're welcome.
I would love that this was our coverage of this entire chapter.
I was actually going to say,
and anyway,
so
they got home.
tWoTcast for this week, and I don't care about the rest of this chapter because that was an amazing ending to this podcast episode. If you have any comments or questions, the best way to find us is on Twitter at tWoTcast.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can email us at twotcast@gmail.com.
You can join us in conversation. Oh, I got the Discord one in conversation on our Discord server. Permanently linked at the top of the Twitter profile. We don't use it.
We're on Patreon now.
That's
way more often than we used to be. That's patreon.com/tWoTcast. If you enjoy the show, help us out and give us $1.
Podcast theme today was brought to you by the one, the only, the three of them. That's not right. There's only one. God damn it. Taffy Bennington. Taffy with Taffy on Twitter and Anarchy 101 on YouTube.
Join us next week for Wheel of Time, Book 2, The Great Hunt, Part 7, covering chapters 18 through 21. I'm Joe. You've been listening to Jono. And Tom.
Shut your mouth.
And N from Cool Story Podcast was here.
Hi.
And we had a great time with you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was great.
And where can everyone find your podcast if it's not obvious?
It's on all the platforms. If you just go to Cool Story, if you just Google, I don't know, I've had too much whiskey. Cool Story on all platforms. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram, etc.
All right, good. All right, keep the change.
Really Cool Story.
And thanks for being on the show. It was awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Really enjoyed it.
I appreciate the invite. I will happily come back anytime you want me.
Wheel of Time. Reread a podcast, explicit and R freaking rated. Jono's the wild card, always talking shit. Joe's the straight man, he's a total dick. Tom calls in if he's not too busy.